I don't think we're going to be let off that cheaply, because NASA's got to have his own party, and we've all got to get together again for that, presumably next month. But we do wish him as well, and of course, today is a celebration for Mr. Ban. We had him here last year as well, and all of us did say, well, Mr. Ban, we think you ought to be there much longer. And I'm glad we all helped in making that possible. I think please keep eating. The waiter should keep pouring and make sure that everyone's looked after at their tables. Service must continue while we share a few words here and there. It's a very strange situation that develops today in the world. I was absolutely riveted to Stephen Hawking's when he spoke about matter, antimatter, and dark energy. And I was horrified to find that what in fact brings together the universe in this one explosion is matter. And of course, then there is the rest which floats around aimlessly, seamlessly. But the dangerous situation is what happens to dark energy? Because dark energy is 70% of the universe. As it expands, it grows even larger. Well, as all of us today live in what we consider an endless period of time, we seem to forget that the battle between dark energy and matter, much like the battles of old, of light and dark, all sorts of connotations you can put to it. And these connotations, of course, bring to the fore the matter that things will never be at an equilibrium. There always have to be repelling forces. There have to be forces which contradict each other. And the only interesting thing in that is that each time a new star is born, the first thing it does is it absolutely sends out a huge cosmic field which separates all the debris and pushes away the darkness. And each time one dives into a dark cloud, a black spot appears, and an entire universe goes into a thumbnail of a human being, practically. And when that happens, again, it attracts all the debris around it. Nothing escapes it. But why I say this to you specifically today is because at the UN, we seem to take everything for granted. We take everything will remain, everything will be permanent, even the permanent members will be permanent. Well, so they are, but everything changes. Change cannot be in any way, shall we say, stopped. There will be a new world. The new world will speak and ask for its equitable representations. And the new world will want to say so much more. Whether it happens or doesn't happen will all be a question of forces that interplay not only around the universe, into our galaxies, but also in our world, and especially the United Nations. And I think we're very lucky at a time like this to have Mr. Ban being re-elected. And the other day I had a lot of friends standing up extolling virtues of Mr. Ban and also of how he could be helpful to their particular conditions. And while it is always music to hear what anyone has to say, it's so important, I believe that the reason we put him there the way we did is because he understood all of us and all of us understood him. And that is the important thing here today. But I'm not here to take on any issues today. I'm not going to speak of anything. We did that at the Asia Society meeting, at the Asia Group meeting just recently. But what I want to do is to mark the occasion. we have a little gift for Mr. Ban. And that gift has great pertinence. And the reason for that pertinence is that when Asia reached out to the Americas, and when Pangaea smashed into 4 pieces, and a corner of the United States, of the North American subcontinent, pushed in the Bering Seas towards Asia and then rebounded. For a brief moment, there was a corridor in history. And across from that corridor, the Asians came across first. I do know, of course, that this will not satisfy the Columbus theory, but what we have to know is, even before the Columbus theory, the Scots, and I'm glad Philip Barham is here, I'm not sure he'll back this, but the Scots got in closer through the Hudson Bay, and many hundred years earlier. They're now discovering evidence. And of course, the Nordics got in somewhere near through the Caribbean areas and up the Mississippi areas and into that particular zone. So all sorts of areas, but the truth of the matter is that when they all got here, they found the Asians here already. And they were called the Red Indians or the Indians. And of course, we know for a fact that before South America and North America patched up, the Mayas, the Incas, the Aztecs, they were there, and they were talking to the heavens, and they were doing incredible things. But in North America, the Asians reached out. And having reached out across the Bering Strait, they came, and the first place they habited in this part of the world is what we now know as Alaska and Canada. And I'm going to read to you about this object that is lying here. Let me describe this object. This object is stones of granite, which primordial man placed around the Northern American continent to identify his being there. And it has some amazing qualities. The people were the Inuit Indians, and the Inuits created this little article called Inuksuk. And it is Inuksweet in plural, but basically they call them the silent messengers of the North, constructed by the Inuit in the circumpolar world, including, of course, in Canada's north. The Inuksweet served as a number of different purposes. On the bare tundra, Inuksweet served as signposts guarding the Inuit to their camps or special hunting grounds. They were built to mark special camping grounds and also to keep evil spirits away from settlements. Since the Inuits had to go through several areas in the snow and tundra, this was a very life-giving source. I would also like to say that sometimes the Inuksweet served a different purpose. They were a comforting indicator, this is what I wanted to share with you, to a traveler first crossing, that some other person had already traveled this route before them and they were not alone in the world. And that is so important to what I want to talk about today. And these structures can be huge and much smaller, but it is a guide to the rest of the world following, that the world that was not necessarily millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, in communication, as they came and took this land and settled it, they left these as New Testaments to their survival. And there is a little cleft in the head through which, if you view at a long distance, you'll be able to spot another Inuksweet. So this is what I wanted to share with you, because I give this to you, Mr. Ban, because today, as we remap the world, and many have not recognized it yet, but it will happen, I feel that stretching their arms across from Asia to America, thousands, maybe millions of years ago, is so symbolized with your stretching across from Asia to the Americas and around the world. I feel that this should be as a new testimony to much older and ancient civilizations than we could even imagine, where I feel that being in your office, perhaps it might be able to give the sort of warmth for people to realize that the world will procreate, it will go on, it will survive nevertheless, and that is the hope that we wish to give all mankind through you here today. Would you please come up and receive this little gift as a gift from all